you, Nandakumar. Greetings and welcome. Mr. Vijay Kumar, Chairman, IPI Bangalore Chapter. Mr. Nandakumar, supporting in coordinating the seminar. Dr. Sundaresan, my dear friend, Mr. Vijay Kumar, President, Karnataka State Plastic Association. Mr. R.R. Nayak, Chairman, Director, Construct. Dr. Ajay Karmakar, Polymer Technologies, our today's speaker. Dear participants, IPI members, and seniors and friends. IPI, over the last 4 decades of its existence, IPI has been widely regarded as the knowledge partner platform for plastic industry in India. IPI has a robust presence pan-India with its 15 chapters and over 2,300 members. Here we organize various programs, the flagship event being its national conference. Moreover, every chapter conducts full and half-day seminars, technical lectures, meets, endowment and memorial lectures. Additionally, plastics awareness and knowledge sharing programs are held on one end with corporate under the CLP Corporate Learning Program, and on the other hand with the schools and colleges, local NGOs and municipal corporations. Very importantly, there are 21 student chapters at educational institutes across India which have polymer and related streams as part of their curriculum. Technical sessions are held at these chapters, enabling students to get advanced and contemporary knowledge on plastic technology. IPI also conducts, here I like to put, 1-year part-time diploma course called DIPI, which is Diploma of Indian Plastic Institute for budding students who would like to pursue career in plastic. May I have your attention on this issue of DIPI? Our next online course, because now due to this COVID, we have started a lot of digital programming. Up till now, since last 14 years in Bangalore, we have conducting this DIPI course at UVC College, KR Circle, on Saturday evening and Sunday morning, and have been taking our students to CPET, enabling them to know about various testing methods, formalities, identification of raw materials, etc. And we are also conducting industrial visits among the industries of IPI members. Say it is injection molding, extrusions, monofilament, multi-layer, drip irrigation, and all that. But due to COVID and this digital media, our next online course will commence from 21st September, and details are available at IPI Mumbai and Bangalore chapter. Those of you who are interested, one from your side or those of your friends or any other people who want to know about this course may contact us, and being in digital platform, there is no hassle of traveling to the institute, and you can get all through online courses. We have excellent faculty members, and this will be beneficial for our members in the industry. This I wanted to stress, and I look forward for your support on this. Sure. Finally, IPI has taken upon itself to conduct webinars like the current one to reach out to a very large section of the industry, nationwide and globally too. I like to mention here, through the contact of our chairman of Bangalore chapter, Vijay Kumar, we are not only having participants from locally, but we have some international participation also in this seminar today, because the subject is also equally interesting. Friends, in IPI, we release our journal both in print and electronic media, and have a very informative website too. These are the wide spectrum of activities conducted by IPI. With this background, I would like to take this opportunity to reach each one of you who are non-members to register of your IPI Life membership, wherein you will enjoy numerous benefits of access to technical information, attending conferences, webinars, and other privileges being accorded from time to time. May I add that IPI is one of the promoting partners of Plast India and in the advisory committee of CPET, DSI standard, and participate in various important issues related to policy matters. Please do visit our website. With these words, I once again warmly welcome each one of you and wish you a very interesting time today. At the end, I also want to mention that this seminar is being supported by Konkan Specialist, and we are missing Vinod Bondal, chairman of the company, and look forward to have him in one of the seminar again sponsored by them. Thank you very much. Wish you good time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much for the introduction of the IPA. I request and I welcome Mr. Vijay Kumar to give the welcome address.
Yeah. Thank you. Very good evening to. My name is Vijay Kumar, Chairman of the Bank Chapter. I extend a warm welcome to our GC Chairman, Mr. Hariram Thakkar, Vice Mr. Sundareshan, and all the office bearers. The office bearers of IPA from all the chapters across India and head office. My special thanks to the international participants, especially Mr. Kirti Vanasinghe from PRI Institute of Sri Lanka and his team. Other friends from Colombo who have excellent background. Mr. Kirtivan Kottayan from Maharaja Group of Sri Lanka and Mr. Iqbal from Standard Holdings. They are having an excellent plastic background and they have shown a lot of interest to participate in this program and also our DIPI course in the future to come. They also conduct a lot of program in their country. So they would like to have a collaboration with us. And we are really honored in case if there is opportunities for us to do a collaboration with them and do the programs. The participants from processing industries, product developers, designers, and end product users from plastic fraternity. Faculty members, my dear faculty members of DIPA, academicians, students from various institutes. And I would like to inform you that as Mr. Thakkar has told about little bit detail, just a few seconds about this DIPA course and to have an insight of that. We have 4 categories of the papers. That is, one is the polymer science and technology, where we talk about various raw materials, properties, and applications. Then processing of plastics, how this raw material is processed by various methods, like whatever he has mentioned, like extrusion, injection, molding, and for various application. And product design, especially for the tool, how the product is designed for making it, and the mold design along with that 3D print technology. And apart from that, there is industrial management to know how to run the industry and profitability. All the extra things are done at the industrial management. This is a theory class we do. Apart from that, we take the students to CPET and to show them how to test the raw material and finished products, and various applications and properties are required, how it will affect, how to get the result. All these things are online, on hand. We will be in a position to show them, and they themselves will be in a position to see that on their hand. And followed by industrial visit, whatever they have learned, whatever they have seen in CPET, and there is a commercial aspects, how the industries are functioning in the mass scale. So they will have a immediate check out how the processing is done in the various factories. Those who want to know the insight of polymer field should enroll for the course immediately to take this opportunity provided by us, and it will be excellent. The faculty members, they have a knowledge of 40 years and above, and we share the experience. Jointly, we all of us learn together, and the new development, what is taking place. With this, now, our past experience has taught us that whenever there is a challenging time, we have pushed ourselves for a more efficient and effective work, which has led to the new opportunity. The need has directed us to the new product development and innovation achieved for better life. In 1986, we have that order by the government, that is the JPMA, that is jute packing mandatory order came. That time there was so much budding industries, woven sacks have put their units, and because of this jute lobby, that industry have gone into doldrums and many have to put down their shutters. But the industry has worked very hard and developed lot of products, innovative products. Those days it is like jumbo bags, tarpaulin, bulk containers, etc. And today it is one of the largest sector, and approximately 30% of the pp consumption of that is coming from this sector, particularly that only one sector. So that is what, whenever there is a difficult time, that we sharpen ourselves for a better thing for tomorrow. The current period is one such occasion. We have learned to live the new normal life. We have national webinar which has broken all the boundaries and crossed the borders and limitation and united all of us for the common cause. That is the knowledge sharing and learn the new innovation and technological development in various sectors. All these are delivered at our convenient and comfortable place and in our own ambience. IPA has taken this opportunity and arranging many seminars for the benefit of the plastic fraternity. Today is one such event is being held to know about the very important product which is of great concern for the environmental issues. We need to be more responsible industry to address this matter suitably. I would like to thank Kongan Specialty Products for sponsoring today's event. They will talk about the product and development done in today's topic, that is biodegradable and compostable polymers based alloys and master batches for a variety of application. For this, we have Mr. R.R. Naik, Director of Kongan Spec. He is a chemical engineer by background, and he has chosen and aligned himself to the branch of chemistry and chemical engineering, that is polymers, and have extensive experience of about 34 years in this field. We are very much eager to hear from you and what is the new things what we can take away from this particular event. So I would like to call Mr. R.R. Naik to take on this podium and continue the program. Mr. R.R. Naik.
Thank you, Vijay. Good evening to all the panelists and the attendees for this webinar. And I first of all thank IPI, Bangalore chapter, and everybody at IPI for having given us this opportunity to be presenting this webinar. So what we'll do is I'll make a short presentation of our organization, that is Conspec. We are actually, the company is Konkan Specialty Polyproducts Private Limited. I'll probably make a small presentation about Conspec, but primarily the webinar will focus about everything about bioplastics, that is biodegradable and compostable plastics in general, and some of the initiatives which Conspec has taken in this line. So I request Dr. Ajay to just present the screen so that I can take on the presentation, please. The full screen, Ajay ji.
Yeah, that is the one, sir. You
Yeah, Ajay ji, can you make the full screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So can you go on to the presentation about Conspec? Next slide. Yeah, next slide. Yeah. The next slide, please. Yeah. That's Konkan Specialty. We started our journey in the year 1987. It's now about 33 years that we have been present. We are generally known as Conspec because that's our registered trademark, and in the industry all over the world and in India, we are known as Conspec. We are headquartered in Mangalore. That's on the western coast of India, in the southern side, basically. And currently the team at Conspec, we are about 300 people who are engaged with the organization. We have totally 7 units, manufacturing units, which are 6 units are located at Mangalore. And out of these 6 units in Mangalore, we have one specific dedicated unit for only compliance products. When I mean compliance products, only regulatory compliance products which are used by the pharma, the toys, and the food contact application industry. It's a specific unit. And we have one unit in Chennai, which is on the east coast of India. The total installed capacity of master batches that we have currently is 54,000 tons per annum. Next slide, Ajay. Conspec has a global presence. Apart from a large amount of customer base that we have in the country, we have also a large presence in the markets outside India, where Conspec as a brand has made its presence in countries like Japan. We are there in Colombia, Ecuador, Argentina, Brazil, Peru, Bangladesh, Oman, Qatar, UAE, Sri Lanka, Sierra Leone, and we are expanding. And everywhere, it's the Conspec brand which is getting promoted, and we have received excellent response from most countries. And in India also, we have a very large customer base spread through the country. I'll just give you a brief about what are the verticals that our organization is present into. Our core competency has been master batches, of course. So under master batches, we have the generic and the customized master batches. And primarily at Conspec, we have believed in one philosophy, that we are solution providers. Finally, it's not about the products what we manufacture. It's about the solutions that we can offer and bring it onto the table of a customer and try to understand their requirements better so that the right solution is given. So we normally call ourselves a solutions company, not a product company. And so what we have done is we have the master batches, which is the core in our business. We also have a vertical where we make something called the performance products group, which is primarily consisting of mineral filled compounds and for thermoplastics for automobile and furniture industry. Then innovation has always been a part and parcel of our growth. We are continuously innovating, and in this direction, we have a separate innovative materials group. And we have developed a lot of products primarily by compounding natural fibers like rice husk and bamboo fiber and waste, biological waste, basically, along with PP. And also, we have also worked on extensively on the biodegradable and compostable compounds and master batches, which is the discussion that is going to be presented today by Dr. Karmarkar, my technical colleague, my technical director. We also have a B2B, B2C product. That's the part of our innovative products group, which is primarily wood plastic composites, which is basically deckings, wall claddings, railings, etc., for the building construction industry, for the building industry. And then, of course, we wanted to ensure that whenever we offer a product to a customer, there were questions always which a customer used to ask is, how are you validating and confirming that your product meets the required specifications and the regulatory compliances? So to ensure that we answer this question with validated reports, we set up something called a scientific services group, which is a NABL accredited laboratory, which is an independent laboratory by itself. And we are doing third-party certification from this laboratory and also utilizing the facility for testing our own products and certifying our own products. So when we certify a product, it is after testing. We just don't go by reports presented by our raw material suppliers. and we don't estimate the results. We test both the raw materials and the finished goods. So the scientific services group is taking care of this activity as an NABL third-party lab. Next slide, Ajiji. As I told you, we have got solutions. So most of our products, we call them as solutions. So anything, any master batch solutions which we offer for coloring are called the Colosol range. That's the coloring solutions. We have a variety of master batches in this sector, like the whites, the blacks, the colors, various shades for various polymers. We also have the productivity solution range of master batches, where primarily we are trying to work closely with customers to offer certain productivity solutions in their processes. And we try to offer that in the form of a master batch. We also have performance enhancement solutions. That's a range of master batch where if at all a customer desires enhancement of certain properties, performance of their product, whether it is UV stability or any specific requirements which they come across, we try to design it and we try to enable the master batch out of it and try to offer this as a solution. So we are a solutions company. Next, Ajay. Another performance products, as I told you, we are offering the mineral filled polymer compounds and master batches. We are also supplying a lot of flame retardant master batches and compounds, both halogenated and halogen free. We are now extensively working on low smoke, zero halogen compounds and conductive compounds, and we have met commercial success with these products. In the innovative materials, as I told you, natural fiber compounds. This is natural fiber compounds are basically infusion of natural fibers like rice husk, wood flour, bamboo fibers, coffee excess, etc. from biomass and agricultural byproducts, which are chemically functionalized along with polymers like polyethylene and polypropylene. And it's in keeping with our credo that we would like to go green, be a low carbon footprint company, and try to work closely with customers, with the governments, with the industry, with the research institutions, and trying to offer something for the future. Under innovative materials, we started work on biodegradable and compostable compounds in master batches about 2-3 years back, where we have done extensive work on this. This will be discussed in detail by Dr. Karmarkar. We are meeting certain requirements as per the ISO, as the ASTM and EN specifications. And we have a technical collaboration with the Total Corbion, which is a global leader in PLA, which manufactures PLA, which is a 50-50 joint venture between the global giant Total, which is a petrochemical giant, and Corbion, which is the world's largest manufacturer of lactic acid. So we have an arrangement with them. They produce polylactic acid polymer at Thailand. They have a 75,000 tons capacity, which they produce at Thailand. And we are the technical collaborators for them. As I told you, the innovative products, we are selling this under our brand name Woody. And as you know, it's wood like forever. That's what we have named it as. It looks like wood. It's nothing agricultural waste or wood fiber primarily converted into a finished product. Various profiles are there. We have deckings, we have handrails, skirtings, wall claddings, door frames, window frames, ready-made, and this is being sold separately in the market by us. As I told you, the Scientific Services Group, we are accredited by NABL under as per ISO IEC 17025 2005. We are a third-party certification lab. We have a large client base in this, where we offer third-party certification. And we have most of the equipments that are required to test the life cycle of a polymer product. Apart from polymers, of course, we do a lot of rubber, paint testing. You can do a lot of things out of this lab. It consists of basic equipment like the FTIR, the DSC, the TGA, the HPLC. We have a GCMS, we have an ICP-OES, we have the atomic absorption spectrophotometer, we have a flammability lab, we have a mechanical lab, and we have a weathering lab too, where we do both the Q-Xenon as well as the QUV. So this is something about our Scientific Services Group. As at Conspec, we have always been innovating continuously. We are trying to be providing specific solutions and also meeting most regulatory compliances. So in this direction, we have tried to broad base our product range. So as of today, we cover a wide variety of industries in extrusion as well as in injection molding, the blow molding, the rotor molding sectors, and we offer various solutions and have a large national client base as well as international clients, brands, regional brands, local brands. We service almost everybody. And whenever there's an opportunity to interact closely with customers for any solutions, we are the most happiest and would like to interact with them and offer whatever solutions we can offer from our team. We have a very, very good team. We have quite a number of polymer technologists and developers, and the team Conspec is always striving to provide a better your tomorrow for all our customers and as well as for all stakeholders in Conspec. I complete my presentation about Conspec, and from here on, Vijay, Dr. Karmarkar, you can introduce, and he will continue with the next part of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nayak, for a nice and a deep into that what all the work you have done. That has come in a long way of your experience and development, and everything has taken from the field and you have achieved it. Now we talk about our Dr. Ajay Karmarkar is a polymer technologist with over 30 years of experience in the field of polymers. His research interests include polymer composites, reactive extrusion of polymers, compostable polymers, and material characterization and reaction engineering. He is really soaked in with a lot of technological innovation and ideas. So we are looking forward to hear from him, and we look forward to take away from you, Dr. Ajay Karmarkar. Over to Ajay Karmarkar. Ajay Karmarkar. Dr. Ajay?
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yeah, now we are audible.
Sorry,
yeah.
I forgot to unmute it. Very sorry. So thank you very much for your kind words. I welcome all the participants in this webinar, and I thank you all for joining. I will be discussing on biodegradable and compostable plastics, alloys, compounds, and the master batches. If anyone has a problem of inaudibility, please prompt me. So this biodegradable and compostable plastics, we brand under a brand name called N2N, that is nature to nature, signifying nature to nature. So first I will, at the cost of repeating it, I will just like to tell about the definition of bioplastics. A compostable polymer are plastics which can be used as conventional plastics. The degradation of polymer on disposal in composting environment, and I repeat here, composting environment, results in formation of natural byproducts such as oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, water, biomass.
Ajay sir, can you increase the volume because many of them...
Sure. Yes, sir. It converts to natural byproducts such as oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, water, biomass, and inorganic salts, which will not leave any persistent or toxic residue. The decomposition is caused by action of microorganisms commonly existing in the natural environment along with water and oxygen. Am I audible now, sir?
Yes, sir, you are audible now.
Thank you very much. So there are lots of questions which comes to us, particularly on bio-based, bioplastic, conventional plastics, degradable, etc., etc. I just put this small slide here. Here it can be seen that along the x-axis I have to the positive side biodegradable and to the negative side non-biodegradable. On y-axis I have bio-based and fossil-based. Now let us start with fourth quadrant here. You can see that conventional plastics, that is PE, PP, HDL, etc., are non-biodegradable and they are made from fossil fuel based, right? The second category is biodegradable, but they are made by synthesis using fossil based monomers like PBAT, polybutylene adipate co-terphthalate. It is made from 1,4-butanediol, adipic acid, and terphthalic acid. So this typical monomer comes from uh, fossil-based resources, but the product, the PBAT polymer per se, is 100% compostable and degradable. Similarly, PBS, PCl, polycaprolactam, PGA, polyglycolic acid, and PBSA, and there are many more such polymers which are made from conventional fossil-based resources or oil-based resources, but they are biodegradable and compostable, and hence they are often referred as bioplastics. Bioplastics has no definition as such. The third, in the second quadrant, you can see there are products which are bio-based and biodegradable. So like PLA, polylactic acid, it is made by fermenting sugar to lactic acid and then converting lactic acid to polylactic acid. So the raw material is coming from bio-based resources and the product is biodegradable. Similarly, PHAs, polyhydroxyalkonates, and there are so many analogs, starch, and PBS. PBS I have written here because like Thailand petrochemicals, they make PBS which is partly biodegradable. So succinic acid comes from natural carbon or new carbon, whereas 1,4-butanediol comes from fossil based. So it is partly bio-based, but 100% biodegradable and compostable. The first quadrant, which is a very important category, they are also referred as bioplastics worldwide, particularly in Europe. They are bio-based material, but they are bio-based, but they are non-biodegradable. So the difference between this and this is the source of carbon. Here, the source of carbon is new carbon, whereas in this PE, the source of carbon is old carbon. So they behave exactly same as non-biodegradable plastics when it comes to end of life. But they are important from the beginning of life point of view, that the carbon is coming from natural resources and not from mined carbon. So we are reducing our dependence on carbon, but the products behave no differently than the conventional plastics. Shall I move to next slide? Now we come to biodegradable polymers. I just classified them. This is not a very standard classification, just to tell the difference between the variety of options we have available. So first is biomass-based products like polysaccharides, starch, glucose, cellulose, hemicellulose, wood, lignin, etc., and some proteins, chitosanes, etc. Then there are proteins and lipids, right? Like particularly coming from animal resources like collagen, whey, gelatin, or plant-based like proteins. So many a times polysaccharides are blended with variety of material, including cellulose, hemicellulose, or with gelatin or gluten or soya protein to make packaging material. They are called as mostly starch-based bioplastic. So they are not synthesized by human beings, but they are produced by nature, and we use them as they are produced by nature. The second category comes from microorganisms. Now they are not polymerized from any monomer, nor the monomer is produced by the nature. There are certain class of microorganisms which are fed by carbohydrates like sugar or starch or oils, and they synthesize a material in their body as polyhydroxyalkonates, and there is variety of analogs of this, PHBs, PHBVA, and they will have different properties. We will have discussed the property. So this material is synthesized by microorganisms, but it is not produced by man in reactors. The third category of bioplastics comes from biotechnology route. So sugar or starch is converted to lactic acid by fermentation, and then the lactic acid is converted to something called as polylactic acid synthetically. So this polymer, whole of the carbon comes from the nature, and the product is 100% compostable and degradable. The fourth category I have made is the product coming from petrochemical based resources like polycaprolactone. Now caprolactone is a monomer for PCl, and this comes from conventional petrochemical based raw material. Similarly, polyesteramide or PBSA, this is aliphatic copolyester, or PBAT, we all know about it. It is a aromatic aliphatic copolyester. So all these products are made from oil-based resources, but they are 100% compostable and degradable. That is, when these products are discarded into environment, in a composting environment, I repeat, they will convert to carbon dioxide, water, minerals, etc., without leaving any toxic residue. But I will like to have here a word of caution, because we receive many requests from the industry in this regard. So I will just mention a few things. Many products are being sold into market as oxo-biodegradable, enzymatically biodegradable, etc., etc. Also, some manufacturers are making claims that their master batch or additives at a level of 2 to 4% can make conventional polyolefins biodegrade. This is the term which is being used commercially when they come to sell these additives. Now, I would like to emphasize here that such additive mediated plastics are neither biodegradable nor compostable. So far, there is no technology available which can make conventional polyolefins like polypropylene, polyethylene, or PET to biodegrade in environment, particularly in composting environment. So there are claims like degradable, oxidegradable, oxo-biodegradable, oxo-fragmentable, and sometimes some companies have even blatantly used compostable. But this is all not correct, and there is no sort of proof or proof is provided to support these claims. Now, such plastics, what are exactly this material? Such plastic just disintegrates or breaks into small fragments and goes into environment as microplastics. Now, microplastics particularly are a new and a very, very, very serious danger to the environment. I will just talk very briefly about this in coming slides. So in 2017, over 150 organizations worldwide endorsed a statement by New Plastic Economy Initiative of Ellen MacArthur's Foundation and proposed completely banning of oxo-biodegradable plastics worldwide. Several European countries have banned already oxoplastics, and many more are in process of banning. Now at Conspec, we advocate use of very responsible approach towards waste management and providing scientifically verifiable proof or certification for the product. One worrying news is the oxo-bioplastic market is expected to reach $1 billion. That is a really very worrying sign, because I don't know how many tons of microplastics will be created by this activity of human being. The good news is that bioplastics, that is degradable and compostable plastic market, is expected to reach 7 billion tons by 2025. I'll just have a few words about certification and labeling. So as I discussed earlier, biodegradable and compostable plastics should completely convert to carbon dioxide and water. Now, there are several national and international standards for certifying this. One is ASTM 6400, which is popular in American countries. European standard is EN 13432, and ISO 17088 is an international standard which is adopted in toto by India and is redesignated as IS 17088. Now, there are people ask me about several questions about I have heard of this standard, I have heard of that standard. Actually, there are dozens of testing methods, but these are the three primary standards which are used to certify the bioplastics. Testing method can be different, but but it should adhere to these standards. Now, India only CPET, to the best of my knowledge. I knew about one company in Mumbai which was trying to get accredited, but so far, to the best of my knowledge, only CPET is authorized to test material as per ISO 17088. Now, based on CPET certification, CPCB, that is Central Pollution Control Board, provides a license to manufacture such products. Here I would like to just reiterate that it is the responsibility of product manufacturer to get the license. Just a certification of resin will not help. Every individual product has to be certified by CPCB and has to be tested at CPET before applying to CPCB. Now, there is another important area which is called as labeling. So just by looks or feel, it is very difficult to distinguish between compostable and conventional plastics. And even if it is compostable, we don't know if it is adulterated, how much of non-compostable portion is there, etc., etc. So the best way is to label the product so that the customer can easily identify the material and make a right choice. So internationally, there are so many labels available. Here I have seen few: compostable, OK Compost, and CIC. I think it is an Italian label. So these labels help customer in quickly distinguishing between compostable and non-compostable product. India needs to adopt a labeling policy. So far, we don't have a labeling policy for such plastics. And this will help in consumer in quickly identifying the product, isolate the false product. It will also protect and safeguard the positive image of bioplastics, because company A is manufacturing by lots of investment a genuine bioplastic, company B is faking the product. So such kind of testing and labeling procedures, rigid labeling procedures, will help the computer in will help the customer in making right choices. At the same time, it will protect the interest of the companies also. Now, just a few words about how much we pollute. So the 70% of total plastic consumed in India is discarded, and of this 40% remains uncollected. We discard around 15,000 tons of plastic per day. So around 6,000-7,000 is going into environment. That is a worrying sign. I will just go to the next slide. So these are the common sites in our cities, every city, small or big. These are the sites. You can see here animals, birds, and other living organisms come to these places for search of food, and inevitably, without knowing, they consume plastics. This is a photograph of a landfill. In India, we have only open landfill. This is how the open landfill looks like. Again, you can see the birds sitting there, the cattle sitting there, and all are consuming this toxic waste, which ultimately comes back to our body only. So, with urbanization, yes, urban population is more responsible for discarding and wastage. So typically, if this plot we see Delhi and Mumbai together produce some 6 million tons of plastics per year. 6 million tons, that is huge waste. If we see what is this waste, these are the results, these are the graphs from CPCB website. 50% of it is biodegradable, that is the organic waste. So food, agro waste, vegetable waste, kitchen waste, leafy material, garden waste, etc., etc. And remaining 50% is either recyclable or inert. Now, what is happening? We send everything to landfill. Now, landfilling of organic waste is discarding this 50% resources. 50% resources unnecessarily. It's a waste. In fact, the same resource can provide nutrients to the soil, and this 50%, that is of around 6 million tons, half of it is 3 million tons every year from these two cities only, can go back to soil and return the nutrient to soil, convert to carbon dioxide, convert to hydrocarbons, and convert to carbohydrates, and comes back to us as starch, sugar, or whatnot. But that is not happening. It can fertilize our forest and increase the forest productivity. That is not happening. It is just going waste. Now, where it is going exactly? When we have a very large dump fill, the core of the dump fill will have a very high temperature, approximately 100+ degrees centigrade temperature. This all biological material, that is organic waste, converts to methane because it is starved of oxygen. And methane is a 30, 40, and some people claim 70 times more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So what we are doing? First, we are not utilizing this waste. We are not returning it to soil, but we are returning it to air as a pollutant. I mean, this is not excusable. Third is, because of this degradation, the temperature rises, lots of toxic waste is created and lots of microplastics is created, which goes into soil along with rains.
Sir, can you increase the volume also, sir? Because it's most of...
Yeah, that is the max I could have increased. Okay, I will keep the mic much closer. Am I correct? Am I audible now?
Yeah, now it is audible, sir. Mic closer is audible.
I will hold the mic closer. Thank you very much for reminding, sir. I appreciate it. So, use of bioplastics enables us to return the nutrient to soil, and it helps the circular economy. That is, the waste goes back to soil after composting and it comes back to us as carbohydrates, which we can utilize again. Now, it also ensures return of nutrients, as I said, back to the soil and environment. Third, because there is nothing rotting now, so these black areas of the picture is nothing but rotting food waste. So when nothing is rotting there, the other recoverable waste like paper, metal, etc., will enhance its value, right? And they can be reused and recycled. So just by being little responsible while discarding our organic waste, we can help the environment and nation a lot. When I propose generally these things, first thing people tell me is, this is India, sir. This is not a foreign country. We don't have industrial composting facility. This country don't have this, that. No, it is wrong. Currently, we have more than 6 lakh ton composting facility available as on today. That is industrial composting or municipal composting. Second, establishing composting facility is mandatory for all municipal corporations and urban development bodies. Third, such facilities are net revenue generator. We actually make money out of such facility. They are not loss-making venture. So, as I earlier raised an alarm, rather, sorry for that, but it is really worrying situation. These microplastics can convert to several sub-micron size particles, 20, 30, 40 micron size particle they convert. And ultimately it has been found that they also convert into nano-sized particles. What they do to us? A recent study by an agency in Austria estimate that half the world population may harbor microplastics in their stool. It has been found that populations in Amazon tribes, they have found microplastics in their stools. Someone who is not using plastic, who is not polluting, or who has nothing to do with it, will also get affected equally as a person who is polluting. Approximately 8 million metric tons, please see the figure, 8 million metric tons of plastic enters into our oceans annually. From where it comes? 80% of it comes from land, like these landfills and runoff water through rivers. Again, another worrying figure is 4 billion microfibers are present in 1 square kilometer of our deep sea. See, the whole marine life is consuming this plastic without being responsible for creating these plastics. And it only comes from mostly water bottles, carry bags, particularly clothings, and from our cosmetics, which they have microparticles for making them scrubbing action, and from clothings and carpets, particularly synthetic carpets and styrofoams. So yes, we are polluting this environment at an alarming rate, and we need to stop it, and stop it as fast as possible, because nature cannot sustain this load. How they affect the human being? Toxicity to human gut, lungs, liver, brain cell, reproductive health. They damage marine wildlife. They have negative impact on our terrestrial ecosystem, because roots have a pore size of around 30-35 microns. So if your microplastic is 10 micron, it is absorbed by the roots along the water and will go into plant. Even if we eat plant, we are eating microplastics. How do I take it away from a plant? Impossible. It is going to be with us. It's also contaminating our drinking water. So it's a very dangerous thing. And yes, we have to be alive to it. And we should mitigate it immediately, as early as possible. What India is doing all about this. Several states in India have completely banned single-use plastics, particularly carry bags, grocery bags, single-use plastics, banners, cups, plates, crockeries, cutleries, etc. Strict penalties are also being imposed. Now some numbers again. PP TQ films, 250,000 metric tons per annum. That is almost 250,000 metric tons. PP, thermoforming, it is about India only. 90,000 metric tons. HDPE, 590,000 metric tons. LDPE, 390,000 metric tons. And LLD, 1,411,000 metric tons. Oh, they are huge numbers. And almost 40% of it is uncollected and is going into our environment. So what can be a clean solution for it? A Conspec offers an eco-friendly solution to most single-use plastics for a variety of packaging applications under its end-to-end brand as I discussed earlier. So what is a circular economy? You can start from any point in this cycle. So say start from product. Product is discarded, get composted. Carbon dioxide evolves, which is absorbed by plants, converted to carbohydrates, which goes into processing factories, converted to resin. We make product, and this cycle continues. This is circular economy. What is happening today is we mine the oil from the ground, make a product, and throw it in the environment. This is a more responsible way of utilizing a product. So we have collaborated with world leaders, as Nayak Saab told you, Total Carbon BV, to bring India some technologies to manufacture biodegradable compounds to mitigate the menace of single-use plastics. Now, bio and compostable polymer industry is a relatively new and is still evolving. Unlike conventional polymers, very few bioplastics have been commercialized so far. The available choice cannot meet every requirement of all the processing equipments currently used for processing plastics and physical and mechanical properties required for a specific product or all the products. So what are polymers which have seen early commercialization is polylactic acid, PLA, PBAT, PBS, PHAs and its analogs, PBSA, polyglycolic acid, PGA, and starch-based thermoplastics. These are the few companies which produce them. Very few companies produce them. Now here, if I see the total bioplastic market is around 2.11 million tons. Half of it, almost 44% of it, is for biodegradable, for non-biodegradable, but bio-based. So we leave this aside for today's discussion. We will talk about only biodegradable plastics, which say 1.1 million approximately, 1.1 million tons approximately. So here it can be seen that of this bioplastics, if I remove starch, because it is a carbohydrate, natural carbohydrate, it is not synthesized by man. If I remove this, then the first three plastics, PLA, PBAT, and PBS constitutes 90% of the product. PHAs is used in 1.2%. So if you multiply by 2, it is maybe 2.5% is PBS. And another 3% is other bioplastics. So 95% or 90+% is contributed by these three plastics. That's why I said this industry is in a very initial stage, very nascent stage, and not much options are available. There is a huge work going on developing more biodegradable plastics or synthesizing copolymers with these plastics. But as on now, these are the three choices available to the industry. Majority. Others also available, but majority, these are the three choices. So the application wise, if we see, then the first three applications here, that is rigid packaging, flexible packaging, and agriculture and horticulture films, they constitute around 70% of the usage pattern of the bioplastics. But I am happy to see that consumer goods, textiles, building and construction, and automobile also is picking up significantly. Now, as I said, it is not possible to replace whole lot of conventional plastics, PP, CPE, POM, HD, LD, LLD, MPE, blah, 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 and dozens of their copolymers. It is not possible that these 3 or 4 types of bioplastics can replace all these types of plastics. I'm not talking about volume production right now. I'm talking from the performance properties or mechanical properties point of view. 3-4 plastics cannot meet the requirement of these hundreds of man-made plastics or non-conventional plastics. So when we think of going to bioplastics or towards the greener alternative, one thing I want to emphasize here that we should not be looking at replacing the polymers on a one-to-one mechanical property basis. We have to evaluate the functionality of a product and try to select a product which should meet the functional requirements of the product rather than comparing it with PEK or PBT or PET or ABS. So we have to re-engineer ourselves also and appreciate that there are requirements of a product, and if those requirements can be made can be met, then we can think of replacing the polymers. So just to give you a brief idea about how these polymers perform vis-a-vis conventional polymers. Now this graph shows a comparison between tensile strength and elongation at break. I will just use the pointer. Yeah. So if you see this area where the elongation break is very, very less than 5% or so, many bioplastics like PLA, PBH, etc. falls in this category. So they are reasonably strong, 40, 50. PLA is I think around 65 MPa strength. So they are well, they have good tensile strength, but their elongation at break is very, very low. Now, there is another class of bioplastics like PBAT, PCL, BioPE, sorry, not BioPE, sorry, TPS, particularly PBS, PCL, and PBAT. I would like to concentrate. They have a reasonable strength and very good elongation at break. So they can be straight away used for packaging films, blown films, etc. But then the requirement of product which falls in this category comes, which is empty here. We need to have a solution. Now, as I said, the solutions available are very few: PLA, PBAT, PCL, and PBS. So by combining these all things along with other additives, fillers, or other products, we have to meet the property requirements. And that is where we do work. That is where the alloys and compounds are important. The second graph tells about the stiffness, that is Young's modulus, and tensile strength. Again, we can see here that these materials have reasonable tensile strength and very low Young's modulus. So they are flexible. Again, ideal for film manufacturing, packaging film manufacturing. As I said, PBS, PCL, PBAT, all forms in this category. PLA has a very high Young's modulus, right? But very high tensile strength also, but low elongation at break, as I said. And all these PHB class of material are having very good Young's modulus, that is, they are stiff and they are strong, but they are not tough, right? So we need to toughen these polymers, this class of polymers, or stiffen this class of polymers for a variety of applications. So today's talk about why blends and alloys are important is for this reason only, that to meet the specific property requirement for a specific product, we need to engineer these bioplastics, because off the shelf, many plastics are not available. As many plastics as conventional plastics are not available. So there is a huge demand for blending, compounding, and alloying these materials with other biopolyesters or other fillers or inert fillers or even organic fillers like cellulose fiber, wood, starch, etc., etc. Now this is the very important area where bioplastics do not meet certain property requirement, and that is OTR and WTR. First, I will talk about OTR, that is oxygen transmission rate. We can see that bioplastics, most bioplastics, that is PCL, PBAT, PBS, and PLA also. PLA has very good oxygen barrier property, much better than conventional plastics like PP, LD, PE. PLA has a very good OTR properties. But other materials also have very good OTR properties. So oxygen transmission rate is not a big issue with bioplastics. The major limitation with bioplastics is water vapor transmission rate. We can see here that all these polymers, including PLA, falls in a category where the water vapor transmission rate is very, very high. Only polyhydroxyalkonates, particular class, has a good water vapor permeability value. So again, in this case also, maybe blending of this class of material is required with blending of this class of material to convert product which can meet the OTR, WTR requirements. Or the best option available is using platelet fillers like nano clay, etc., to improve the moisture properties, moisture barrier properties, or WTR properties. Or even a metallization is an option, because metallization do not hurt the biodegradability of the product. Aluminum will go into soil as its oxide, And we know aluminum is the most abundant material on the earth. So we can consider metallizing the films. But as on today, one big limitations about bioplastics is its water vapor transmission rates. One. Now, all these bioplastics are food contact approved and can be used to pack dry fruits, oily foods, cakes, butter, cheese, etc., including liquid packaging like juice, milk, or water. And they are all FDA approved and generally considered as safe. So we specialize in allowing two or more polymers to achieve a desired property for a particular product. Whenever required, we use inert additives like clays or calcium carbonate to increase certain specific properties, say like wear resistance or stiffness. And we also use natural fibers like cellulose or other carbohydrates like starch or TP starch particularly to make compounds with conventional bioplastics. I would like to say here that merely blending two polymers or adding additive to a polymer do not result in transfer of desired properties of individual components to the blends. We need to develop an interfacial adhesion between different components of the alloy or compound. And we specialize here in this technology particularly, wherein we ensure that the surface free energy of one component is brought close to other component so that the property of individual component can be transferred to the blend or alloy. Now, when we talk of blending, I would like to have just a small word of caution. Many companies will be offering products which they claim can improve the impact strength of the polylactic acid or PLA. That is called as toughening of PLA. It makes the PLA tough. It is true that these products make the PLA tough. But when I searched more on it, many times these products are shell core type acrylic copolymers, or sometimes they are copolymers of ethylene with hexene or higher olefins, right? So they do improve the performance of bioplastics, number one, no doubt about it. They will also be cost efficient. That is also no doubt about it. There are technologies available by which we can improve the interfacial adhesion between such additives and bioplastics, correct. It is 100% correct. But a small word of caution from my side is these products are not biodegradable. Even compounding them with in very small quantities, generally they are required between 10 and 20%, but even in small quantities, if we compound them with bioplastics, it will lose the certification. Why? Because the standard says any material which is present in more than 0.5% concentration has to be individually tested for biodegradability. So if we use such products, the product will still be having a bio-based content, no doubt about it. Like PLA will have, instead of 100, it will have 80% bio-based content, but then it will not fall in the category of biodegradable or compostable plastics. So please be very careful when you think of blending bioplastics with these so-called impact modifier or toughening agents or bio-strength kind of material. And please ensure that whatever additives goes into bioplastic compounding, right, as a filler or as a property enhancing component, has to be biodegradable individually, not together. So it is not that if PLA requires 90% conversion to carbon dioxide in 180 days, I am free to add 10% non-degradable material. No, any material which is added to an extent of more than 0.5% has to be individually tested for biodegradability as per ISO 17088 or other standards. Right. So we have a very large experience, 30 years in creating compounds and master batches. We have an extraordinary NABL accredited lab, as Nayak has told you all. And we take great care in ensuring that our raw material is certified what we get is a right raw material, and what goes out of our company is a right product, and we sell it at a very competitive price. So I will just summarize what all we have developed here. So we have developed here biodegradable and compostable plastics, alloys and master batches, which are made from certified plastics and can meet technical requirement for various applications like blown film applications. I think most of us know about this particular application. We all use this polymer. So we can make carry bags, grocery bags, mulch film, liquid packaging, etc. Conspec develop compounds and master batches for this class of application, and our all material meet the FDA requirement, food compliant requirement, and all other requirements. We have a special unit for compliant master batches only. Sometimes carry bags and grocery bags or mulch film made out of pure PBAT can be very flexible, like they have very low elongation at low stiffness around 0.6 or sometime 1.4. So compounding it with other stiffer polymers and adding platelet kind of fillers will improve the stiffness, and hence the handling of the material will be better. So we do a lot of work in this area. Cast films, applications like bread packaging, confectionery packaging, bakery products, etc. Garment packaging, when we buy a new shirt and all, it comes into a film. So PLA can be converted into cast films for these applications, including biaxial oriented films. Thermoforming for hot and cold application. Now, let me tell you, when we need rigid packaging, there is only one option available, that is PLA. The second option, the polyhydroxy alkonates or their analogs, are currently not available in commercial quantities that we can think of this application. So PLA has a very low heat stability.
Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, please, sir. Please, sir, speak. I did not hear you, sir. Please tell me again.
Yeah, the speech is becoming very low, so kindly take the speaker close by.
Yeah, right. Right, sir. So thermoforming is another very important application where PLA can be used to pack products like cake, pastries, etc., etc. We can easily use PLA as such. For hot application, we need high heat PLA. Now, PLA is a very crystalline polymer, but when it is cooled very fast, it goes amorphous, and amorphous PLA is transparent. If it is crystalline, then it is opaque, quite opaque. So we do have technologies for both making hot application PLA and cold application PLA. And the major application is tumblers for cold drinks, juices. Very important application is blister packaging. So these are all the products which have very, very short life. We open the food packaging and just dump it within 5 minutes. So PLA is an ideal material for thermoforming applications, particularly for hot food packaging, cold food packaging, liquid packaging, and blister packaging, particularly for consumer goods. Then injection molded cutlery, rigid packaging, toys, single-use components can be made out of injection molded PLA. Again, here we have a choice of high heat and low heat PLA. We also have compounds can be made by toughening PLA with either other biopolyester or using some other means. Then comes injection stretch blow molding. I will have some pictures at the end of my presentation. Now for this application also PLA can be used very easily, and we can make water bottles, jars, cosmetic jars, pharmacy bottles, etc. by using injection stretch blow molding applications. Paper coating is another classic example of making a green product. Generally, the papers what we use for coffee cups, packaging, or bakery products are all lined with polythene or polypropylene. So here we can use PLA and make the whole cup product, the whole packaging as compostable. So it can go along with the food waste and then be composted in the environment, and the carbon comes back to us in the form of in the form of carbohydrates. So what are the problems associated with processing of bioplastics? Typically, density of bioplastics is 1.24 to 1.29 as against 0.92 to 0.97 of the conventional plastics. So there will be more material in the free volume of the machine, and hence there will be higher torque on the machine. So we have to ensure that either machine is designed to bear that much extra torque, or we have to manipulate the feeding. We have to control the feeding so that the torque don't go beyond the tripping value. So typically machines designed for PET, because it has a similar density to that of polyesters, bioplastics, because both are polyesters. PET machines will not have much problem. But if it is a PE, PP machine, we have to ensure that either machine torque is available for the product, or we have to control the feeding to manipulate the torque. That is the particular thing. Now, most of the bioplastics basically are polyesters. Now, they will absorb moisture like any other polyester or nylon. And these bioplastics are designed to hydrolyze. That is why they are compostable. When we throw them in the composting environment, in presence of temperature around 70 degrees centigrade and moisture, they start breaking down by hydrolysis. So if the product has moisture and we start using that product in our machine where temperature is in excess of 170 degree, every molecule of water will break the bond and the molecular weight will fall down dramatically. So it is very important that bioplastics has to be dried to the extent of less than 50 ppm to make good products. Otherwise, there will be loss of property during processing. Secondly, at the hopper also, we ensure that the material is dried, and the material is dried at a least temperature, typically less than 50 degrees centigrade. Why? Because above 50, the hydrolysis rate will be very high. So when we are drying the material, the moisture is going out, but before it goes out, it is already breaking the polymer because of heat. So please ensure that the hopper dryer is set at a very low temperature, as low as possible, to avoid the moisture absorption. Third is, whenever the raw material comes to our factories, please ensure that we open it as and when needed and not open all the bags and start planning for the whole day. Number one. Number two, any leftover material should be packed back into bags after drying and then sealed before we use it again. Let me tell you a small example. At some time we just keep some small leftover material, 2 kg, 5 kg. I just tie it up with a rope and keep it on the one side. I have found that MFI of the material has increased from 3.5 to 120. So it hydrolyzes so fast. So please ensure whenever we are processing that moisture is a very, very critical component of processing, and it has to be kept away from the product. Now, specific heat of most compostable polymers is 3 to 4 times higher than that of conventional polyolefins. So it won't cool very fast, and hence either additional cooling time has to be given, or the temperature of the coolants have to be reduced significantly to ensure that material is cooled properly before it is ejected out of either injection molding mold or thermoforming mold. Or even when we are making pipes or any other product like straws, we have to ensure that a longer lengths are provided for cooling, or we have to reduce the temperature of the coolant, water bath or whatever way we are cooling it. Now, most resin manufacturers provide processing guides for different grades, but I will just tell you that the processing is similar to that of polyolefins, except that the precautions what I mentioned earlier are taken. The temperatures involved are slightly less, 10 to 20 degrees less, and material can be processed just like any other conventional polymer. It is nothing very different, or no separate skill set is required except some precautions. Another thing is shrinkage of these polyesters is very, very less. So PLA will shrink a lot less than standard PP. So sometime some minor modification in mold may be required, particularly when a injection molded product has to be mated with other injection molded product. So in that case, some minor modification in mold may be required, but generally no modifications is required in the machine to process bioplastics. So these are the products which have been developed by bioplastics. The first product here is a PLA coated paper cup. The second here is cosmetic jars, jars for cosmetic packaging. The third is bottle for pharmaceutical packaging. Here are some gloves which are made of biodegradable plastics. And yeah, today one of the most polluting thing is this and hence this is a welcome development by one of our clients. There are several other products like non-woven products can be made out of bioplastics, particularly diapers, hygiene products, which pollute most and create most bioplastics, and they are hazardous because they contain body fluids. So if such products are made from bioplastics using breathable films as well as non-woven products, then it will help that it with along with the human waste, sorry, body fluids, it can go to composting and will return back sulfur and phosphorus back to soil rather than going into drain and polluting our environment. Then injection molded products can be made very easily. These are the cutlery, these are some writing instruments. And as when we started the talk, Vijay Kumar Saab said about the woven sack, we have developed beautiful woven sack from bioplastics also. So this is the picture to the bottom left of your screen is a woven sack bag made out of 100% compostable material. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. It was nice talking. I would like to take questions in case anyone wants to ask me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Vijay Kumar, sir.
Yes.
We can take for the question and answer.
Yeah, we can straight away go in for the question and answer because so many questions.
So many questions,
there.
but we'll do few questions. Then other questions we can able to answer them in the mail.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, sir. The first question we'll take it with how you remove carbon from it. This is the first question I can.
How we remove carbon from it means?
No, the composite plastics are okay. This is a vague question also. Okay, I am also not aware of this.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
I will just explain it that carbon comes from carbon dioxide in the environment. So whenever you see a plant, a large tree standing, every solid material from it has come from the carbon dioxide. Plant do not take anything from the ground. It only takes water from the ground. So all the carbon embedded in starch, sugar, our fruits, vegetables, plants, big trees, wood, all is carbon dioxide coming from environment. So that is a new theme today. That let us absorb carbon from the nature and make material rather than mining it from the soil and making a product. That's it.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. The second question, the composite polymer and the biodegradable polymer, are they different or the same?
Okay, now wood plastic composites or any other natural fabric composites will have only part of it coming from new carbon or renewable carbon. But the remaining part of it is conventional plastics. But we have also developed product using bioplastics and natural fillers like cellulose and wood or rice husk or bagasse and made into injection molded products. Rigid packaging products can be made out of it. But when we hear WPC, it is not 100% biodegradable. 50% or 60% of it comes from normal plastics and remaining 40% is biodegradable. So it has a reduced footprint, but it is not 100% compostable.
Thank you so much, sir. Do you use dehumidified dryers while making bioplastics as a moisture content is critical?
Yes, sir. Dehumidification dryers are must to process bioplastics. As I said, bioplastics are designed to hydrolyze in presence of moisture and temperature. Now, when we are providing both these things ourselves, definitely it will degrade, right? Say a PLA with several hundred ppm moisture level, if I put into an injection molding machine, in the barrel, it will lose its molecular weight by almost 30%. So it has to be dried before that. And all those who process polyesters or nylon knows this. So dehumidification dryer is must. But one more extra caution is the temperature of drying should be less than 50 or around 50 or 55, because otherwise in the dryer it is getting hydrolyzed, correct? So we have to dry it at low temperature, and hence slightly longer drying time, 3 to 4 hours is required for bioplastics.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can you put some light on the economic aspects of the bioplastics?
Sure, sir. Very nice question asked. As on today, bioplastics are approximately 3 times more expensive than conventional plastics. But that is not because it is very difficult or expensive to manufacture bioplastics. Typically, 2 barrels of oil is required to make one barrel of PP. So the raw material cost at 55, $60 per barrel is very, very high. Now, 1.6 kg of sugar is required to make 1 kg of PLA. 1.1 kg of sugar don't cost more than 20 rupees these days. India has excess sugar, right? And only 1.6 kg sugar, that is around 30 rupees, is the raw material cost for manufacturing of PLA, right? So, in principle, PLA should be much cheaper than the conventional bioplastics which are being made today. I wish India, being a huge producer of sugar and having excess surplus of sugar, should start manufacturing bioplastics rather than exporting this sugar. One. Two, if it is made locally, it will be cheaper. Three, it is a question of production of scale. As I said, other plastics are made in 150 million tons, 500 million, 1,400 million tons, and blah, blah, blah. Total production of bioplastic around the world is hardly 1 million ton, right? Including starch-based plastic, which is 23% or 40%. So it is about economy of scale. Once the governments make it compulsory, the industry start talking about making bioplastics, all these production companies will come to India and start manufacturing, or our local companies, Indian companies which are into variety of businesses, whether chemical business or polymer business, can start manufacturing PLA or PBAT or PBS or many other analogs of these polymers. So it's only a question of time. Until then, we can't convert 100% because with 1 million ton, we can't replace 300 million ton, correct? So right now, price is a constraint, but it is a time where we are in the learning curve. And by 2025, 26, I am sure million times more capacity will rise.
Thank you so much, sir. Can you achieve 80% biodegradation in IS 17088 test?
90% is required. Yes, most bioplastics can do that.
Yes.
Could you 90% in 180 days. Why I am telling 90%? Doesn't mean that 10% will remain in soil because of temperature, 70, 80, 90 degrees centigrade. Part of the product get mineralized. It converts into carbon, right? And hence that 90% is there.
Thank you, sir. And the next question. What could be the expected market rise in India in biodegradable plastic and which sector?
Well, if we go by global trends, the most plastic usage, almost 70% of it, as the draft says, is in the three areas. One is rigid packaging, flexible packaging, and mulch films. Others are coming up, like automobiles are using a lot of bioplastic these days. Particularly expensive brands who can afford little high price are using bioplastics. But initially it will be in packaging, particularly thermoformed products, food packaging, liquid packaging, even milk packaging. People are showing interest. So these are the sectors: packaging sectors, single-use plastic sectors, and agriculture. Agriculture is very important because these plastics are polluting our agriculture fields like anything when we use them as a mulch. So a bioplastic mulch film is a big market in near future. So single-use plastics, flexible packaging, rigid packaging, and agricultural usage is the major area in which growth is going to come at least in the next 5 years.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll take further two more questions because
Sure,
there are
sir.
many of questions, and we'll take two more questions.
Sure,
What is
sir.
the difference between high heat and low heat PLA?
Okay, that's a very nice question. As I said, the heat deflection temperature of PLA is around 55 degrees centigrade. If I take a PLA glass and pour hot water into it or coffee into it, it will collapse in no time, right? Because crystalline PLA has a very low glass transition temperature. Sorry, non-crystalline PLA or amorphous PLA. Crystalline PLA can withstand up to 120 degrees centigrade temperature, right? So just assume that I make 2 cups of PLA, both are transparent looking, and then I do annealing of second cup, right? And make it crystalline. So I allow it to cool slowly, it becomes white. Now I pour water in that white PLA cup, it will not collapse. It can withstand temperature of 100 degrees centigrade. What it requires to crystallize? It requires nucleating agents. So DPLA, that is the another isomer of PLA, is a nucleating agent for LPLA. What we use normally is L-lactic acid. D-lactic acid polymer is a nucleating agent. And other than that, other nucleating agent also can be added. This material is compounded. So the process of crystallization becomes little faster. Ideally speaking, if I take pure PLA also and allow it to cool slowly over 3 hours, I can get a high heat PLA. But by adding nucleating agent, the process becomes faster. So we do specialize in this, and we can provide solution for uh, PLA which can withstand boiling water temperature, which is typically the maximum temperature of the food or food packaging, whatever we use.
Thank you so much, sir. Is the bioplastic material can be used in automotive sector?
Yes, yes. I think there are some very expensive brands of cars. If I'm not wrong, it is Toyota, that hybrid car that uses 100% bioplastics. Yes, Toyota at one stage was manufacturing also PLA, and yes, it can be used in automobile sector. But sir, our immediate concern is short-lived plastic. In automobile, plastic is there for say 10 years at least, and when it is discarded, it can be collected. So the first worry is about single-use plastics or very short-lived plastics, like packaging particularly.
Thank you so much, sir. How much time required for degrading the bioplastics?
As per standard, it requires 180 days in composting environment. Let me tell you one thing, sir, that this degradation is nothing but a depolymerization reaction. Now, like all chemical reaction, it has certain kinetics. The kinetics is derived by a few things. One is the availability of ingredients. In this case, it is moisture and oxygen. Second is temperature, right? So these are the normal kinetic parameters which we have to study. If I have a very small size compost, the core temperature will go to say 70 degrees centigrade. In that case, it will take 180 days. Suppose if I have a very large heap, the core temperature can go up to 100 plus. The degradation time will come down. Similarly, the availability of oxygen and air. Now, if these composts are turned every routinely and air is allowed to pass through this compost, it will compost very fast. Third, I have not said one more thing about bioplastics is recovering methane. So a very ideal way of converting the waste, organic waste into compost is first take it for anaerobic composting. All your food waste along with this plastic, you heat it to 80 degrees centigrade and allow it to convert to methane like a gobar gas plant. And that methane we can use for energy. So 25 to 30% biomass, which is low molecular weight, that is sugar and starch kind of portions of our organic waste will convert to methane. Let us use it to fire the generators. The remaining things will convert to compost, like gobar gas. Remaining thing is straight away can be sent to field. So that is also ideal condition. And in this case, bioplastics will undergo both anaerobic degradation as well as aerobic degradation. So it's an ideal material, sir, for both operations.
Thank you, sir. The last question. This is a good question also. The biodegradable plastic is used for packaging. What happens if it is consumed by human or cattle by mistake? Is it a poison or it will be digested?
Well, sir, such information scientifically is not available anywhere. And I wish scientists don't do this experiment. Right? Because if I declare that it is safe for consumption, possibly you will find prasadam even to cow in a plastic bag.
Yes.
So, sir, actually, plastic is not supposed to be consumed by animals, and let us not have that as a point of discussion. But let me tell you that it is a polyester, any polyester with the acidity of the gut and moisture available there should convert in no time. But I will strictly refrain from answering this question and from commenting further on this question, because it is not the reason why we design a plastic or why we build a product.
Sure, sir. So thank you so much. That is why I said in the starting of the webinar, be a part of a solution, not be a part of a pollution of the country.
Very nice. Correct, sir.
So thank you so much for all the answers, sir.
Sir, I have one question is there.
Sure.
Sir, about PLA and PBS. Is there any difference in processing, consumption, or why that both are there? PBS and PLA.
So PBS is polybutylene succinate and PLA is polylactic acid. PLA has a very high stiffness. It is transparent and it is similar to styrene. It has a strength of around tensile strength of around 60 plus megapascal and a stiffness of around 4 to 6 gigapascal. very strong and very stiff material. PBS has a very low stiffness, around 600 to 700 GPa, MPa, or 0.6 to 0.7 GPa, with very high elongation, and is suitable for film application. For many applications where we need a product equivalent to CP, PP, or PP, we talk about blind. But these two polymers have very different characteristics, sir. One is a very rigid and stiff polymer, very high tensile strength. Other is flexible, reasonable tensile strength, and is flexible, sir.
So coating is PP.
Pardon, sir?
For coating application,
Paper coating you're talking about.
on paper, yeah.
Yeah, extrusion coating PP80 has a very good adhesion, but then PLA has certain advantages. So PP80 is very expensive, sir. As of now, today it is made by only one company in Thailand and obviously few companies in China. But PBS is a good option for coating, but PLA and PLA alloys, what we make, are a better solution for coating than just plain PBS.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Vijay sir, will take care for the vote of thanks.
Yeah. That we can call for Mr. Vijay Simha for vote of thanks.
Before that, I would like to say that I would like to thank everyone for patient hearing, for joining here. I can see very high number of people have participated. The peak was some 250 or so. And I sincerely thank the IPI for giving me this opportunity. And particularly, I would like to thank Dr. Sundaresan for contributing to my presentation significantly. Thank you very much. And thank you all for attending it, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. You can continue.
During the presentation, your contact details, etc., has already been given.
Yes,
so
sir.
if anyone has any questions,
Sure,
they can
sir.
contact directly to Karmarkar.
Yes, sir.
And that will be replied directly.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
And Sandeep, are we going to upload this in our website?
Yes, sir.
So that is also for the information of participants that this presentation will be uploaded in IPI website.
Sure, sir.
Mr. Vijay Simha is available for vote of thanks.
Sir, Vijay Simha is not there, sir.
I think you can propose a vote of thanks, Nandakumar.
Yeah, just a minute. Thank you so much, sir. I also thanks Mr. Ajay Karmakar for the wonderful speech, and I also thank Mr. Vijay Kumar and Vijay Kumar of second Vijay Kumar from Karnataka, Hariram Thakkar sir, and Dr. Sundaresan for the wonderful support. And I also thank IPI headquarters for the wonderful support. And I thank all the each and every participants and the attendees for the wonderful presence for the long time to see about this biodegradable plastics and the presentations. Thank you so much. And we like to inform you that tomorrow we have one more presentation at 11 a.m. How to design the industrial manufacturing company with the special about the pipings and the cooling pipes and the chilling pipers. So please do attend this at 11 a.m. and you can also make the registration by the IPA website. And thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Sandeep, for the extreme support. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Mr. Nayak
Thanks.
and Mr.
Thanks,
Karmarkar.
Thank you. Thank you very
Very
much.
good
Thank you very
presentation.
much.
It is the thing of the time, and over a period of time, more and more concentration has to be on that field. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you. Thank you.
Sandeep.
We thank Mr. Vinod Bondal
Yeah.
also.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Convey, I hope he is listening to everything.
Yeah, he is not online, but we'll convey this, and he was quite anxious about it. So
Yes.
I'll convey that all went well, and from his side, thanks to you, thanks to Dr. Sundaresan, thanks to Mr. Thakkar for giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much.
It was a great presentation of both of you. It's very thankful for that.
Thank
It's a
you,
very
sir.
eye-opening, very scientific presentation. Thank you, Conspec, for
Thanks.
giving
Yeah.
us.
Thanks,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Very much, sir.
Okay, Dr. Sundaresan,
Okay,
thank you
yeah.
so much.
Why to thank you, me, sir?
Find out, sir, next topic.
Yeah.
Because ultimately a good topic will be beneficial to the industry. So
That's true. That's
just look for it, sir.
Yeah, we are always focusing
Wow. Yeah.
on sharing.
And Vijay, you thank your international friends who have joined.
I would like to once again thank Mr. Vanasinghe, who were kind enough to join the program, and Dr. Kitu from Maharashtra, and Mr. Iqbal from Standard Holdings. We thank you very much for giving a support and register yourself and join the program. We hope that program was very useful and a lot of takeaways for you. I'm thanking all of you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Nandakumar and Sandeep for
Thank you, sir.
standing by us and
Yes, sir.
ensuring that everything went smooth. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Nand Kumar.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you,
Yeah.
Vijay Kumar ji.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Hari.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye.
Right, sir. Okay, thank you. Bye bye. We are
Bye-bye. Bye.
taking
Right.
Bye.